let's get to understand a few of them, what you have to cover today. So today, actually, we don't have much to cover. We'll just try to cover soft delete and the hard delete, and why actually we need to get to know those particulars. Then, of course, we'll also get to understand update versus case, then some of the string functions. We had looked at the string functions previously. The joins, we had also looked at the joins. It's just a reminder. And then, of course, we'd also try to understand what a schema is. And that would basically mark the end for us in terms of SQL. So I think just before we get to that, there's something that I also need to mention. So SQL is actually very important, especially in data science, because some of the data that you'll actually be dealing with, some of the data that you'll be dealing with, you'll actually be sourcing them from not just the CSV or maybe some particular files, but you'll actually be given data which is actually in a particular database, and you need to actually access that data and analyze that data. So it will help you so that when you advance in the SQL, or when you advance in your data science journey, you can actually be able to also advance to actually performing things like accelerated computing. We call it edge computing, not accelerated, edge computing, whereby you need to actually analyze data at the point of production. So that's actually one of the things, or one of the areas where actually data science is actually running towards or going towards, and it's actually important to get to understand those particulars, because it's just good to be updated with whatever is actually happening. So widely you'd find that the structured query language of the SQL, it is used so that, of course, in the data science, for various tasks, especially when you're dealing with relational databases. So some of the key things that you need to also get to understand when you're actually in the data science journey are the particulars like the data extraction. So basically the data science journey, when actually we're beginning, there are three things that, or three areas that we did define: a data engineer, a data analyst, and a data scientist. So basically, at the beginning of the course, we did mention that with a course in data science, you can actually transition to any of these particulars. SQL is used a lot, especially with data engineers or data engineering, because you'd find that when you actually want to perform data cleaning, data extractions, and also creating of data storage. So you need actually a lot of understanding of SQL, and you'd find that several companies, they would actually hire someone who is skilled in SQL, because they also want to utilize the or want to actually have someone who understands databases. So number one, actually, we have got the concept of data extraction. So SQL is actually used so that you can be able to extract data from relational databases. So data scientists often, you will find that they query databases using the SQL so that they can be able to retrieve relevant data for analysis. So this actually includes selecting specific columns, filtering rows based on maybe some specific conditions, or even joining tables and aggregating the data. Then this particular data now needs to be cleaned. So number two, we have got the term of data cleaning. So SQL can also be used so that you can do your data cleaning tasks, like maybe removing duplicates, handling missing values, standardizing data formats. So the SQL queries, you can actually be able to identify and also clean inconsistent data that is actually stored in your database. Then number three, also you have in terms of transactions, or maybe we call it not transaction, but transformation. So in terms of transformation, SQL is actually used so that you can be able to transform data into a format which are suitable for analysis. So this actually includes tasks like maybe converting the data types, creating new calculated fields, or maybe reshaping your data using the techniques like maybe pivoting or unpivoting. Then you can also be able to explore your data in terms of performance of data exploration. You can actually be able to explore the data. So SQL queries, they are used so that you can be able to explore the data which is stored actually in a database. So data scientist, as a data scientist, you can be able to write SQL queries so that you can be able to summarize and also aggregate your data, calculate descriptive statistics of your data, or maybe identify even the patterns and the trends that are there within your data. Then SQL is also used so that, of course, you can be able to perform your data analysis, especially tasks like performing statistical calculations, maybe generating reports, yeah, creating visualizations. So as a data scientist, you can actually use the SQL so that you can be able to derive insights from the data and also from your stored databases. Then you can also perform data integrations. So SQL, you can use it as a data scientist, you can use it so that, of course, you can be able to integrate it with or maybe from multiple sources. Yeah. So as a data scientist, you can actually write SQL queries to join data from different tables or maybe from different databases, merge those particular data sets, and even perform data fusion tasks that you can be having. Then you can actually go ahead and now perform things like machine learning as well. So I think we were looking at machine learning previously, and also modeling. So yeah, those particulars, and then of course you can be able to do also your optimization in the data. So of course, let's get to look at these particulars. So the first thing that we'll actually be looking at is the soft delete and also the hard delete. Yeah. So what's actually the difference that we have of the soft delete? So these particulars, they're actually important, especially when you'll be looking at the backends or maybe the softwares that are actually produced. So you'll actually get to interact more with the soft delete and also the hard delete. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get to identify these particulars. So when we talk of the soft delete and the hard delete, basically in SQL, soft delete and hard delete, they're actually two different. There are two different approaches in terms of deleting a particular table. So let's break it down. So in a soft delete, what happens is you can actually be able to, so what it involves is actually making records as deleted without actually physically removing them from the database. So what it does is, instead of actually deleting the record entirely, what it does is you'll actually add a flag or a column to indicate that that particular record is no longer active, or it's actually no longer visible. So this approach is used so that you can actually be able to maintain the data integrity, and also so that, of course, you can be able to, so to maintain the data integrity, and also so that, of course, you can be able to maintain the history of the data. So it allows you so that you can be able to retain the information about the deleted records. So some of the common steps we have, you have to actually add a new column. So that particular new column that you add, you can actually, it's so these are actually the steps that you take in terms of implementing the soft delete. So you'll add actually a new column, which is just will be like maybe it's deleted. Yeah. Yeah. So you can name it that way, so that that particular column that you add it to your table so that it can actually indicate the deletion status. Then when a record is actually deleted, it will be updated now to the particular column that you created, this deleted column, so that you can actually mark it as deleted. Then you'll actually adjust your queries to actually execute or maybe to filter out the records marked as deleted. So that's one example of that. So we'll just get to look at how this particulars work. So in this, actually, it is advantageous in that you can actually retain the historical data and the audit trails that are actually there in the data. Then that is actually about the soft delete. Then the other thing that also happens, it allows you so that of course you can be able to do a recovery. Yeah, so it allows you so that of course you can be able to do an easy recovery of your deleted records if actually it is needed. Then the other thing is you'll actually maintain the referential integrity in the relationships that are actually there. The disadvantage of it is that it requires additional logic so that of course you can be able to handle the soft deleted records in the queries. The other disadvantage it has also, it may actually impact the database performance if the soft deleted records are not properly managed. Yeah, so that's actually about the soft delete. Let's also look at the hard delete. So in terms of the hard delete, what happens is the hard delete, yeah, it actually involves permanently removing the records from the database. So when actually you perform a hard delete, the records are physically removed or they are physically deleted from the table. And there is no way you can actually recover those particular deleted. So this approach is more straightforward, but can actually lead to data loss. And actually, it makes it challenging to be able to track the history or maybe the deleted records. So some of the common steps for implementing the hard delete, you can actually use delete, yeah. So when you actually use the delete keyword, yeah, delete, yeah. So when you actually use the delete keyword, that actually permanently deletes, yeah. So when you use actually the delete statement, it will remove the records from your table permanently. So once it has been deleted, the records are permanently removed from the database. So you can't actually retrieve them or you can't actually trace them again. So what's actually the advantage of this? The advantage of this is, number one, it actually simplifies the data management and the cleanup. Number two, it eliminates the storage overhead associated with actually the soft delete records. What are the disadvantages? The disadvantages, number one, it's actually an irreversible action. So it actually leads to permanent deletion. So you can't actually be able to reverse it. Yeah, you can't actually be able to reverse. So then the other disadvantage that it has is once you have actually deleted, it does not actually preserve the history or the historical data that you actually have, or maybe the audit trails are no longer there. Then, of course, it can actually impact the referential integrity if it's actually related. If actually whatever you're actually deleting is related to some records that actually perhaps are not properly handled. So it can actually get a little bit messy, or it can actually interfere with the referential integrity that is actually of the related data. So that's actually how to, so in terms of choosing whether to actually perform soft delete or maybe hard delete, it depends on your specific requirements that you're having. So including things like, do you want to perform things like the data retention policies that you're having within your organization, or maybe the compliance regulations that are there, or maybe the application design that is basically you're having. So the soft delete is often preferred when you actually need to maintain the data integrity, and so that of course you can come back and look at the historical data that you're having. So, but actually, while at the same time, the hard delete is suitable for actually cases where you want to actually permanently, you need to actually apply permanent removal of the data is actually accepted or is actually required for that particular case. So those are the two particulars that we have in that particular case. So I realized I had not even opened my SQL. Just a minute. So let's just try to look at how we can be able to perform those two. So let's just have a query here, and let's save it and say that this particular, let's just give it a name and say the name that we're giving it is, let's say, so let's come here. So let's just give it a name and say tips. So let's begin with soft and hard delete. So I'll just go ahead and perform this in this manner. I'll go ahead and create our data, then of course show you how to be able to perform the particulars. So let's create a table. Let's first of all say that we want to use a particular data use. Let me just use my database. Use my underscore database. Let me run that. Okay, so the next thing that happens is I'll go ahead and create a table. So to create a table, I'll just say create table, create a table. So let me just call this table users. And then, did I have any table called users? Just a minute, let me go to check that. Okay, I don't have such a table. So create a table called users. And in this particular table, let me say that this table has got ID, which will just be given as an integer. Perform for me the auto incremental, auto increment. Then this will actually also be the primary key. Yeah, in that manner. The next thing I'll have is the name. The name, which will actually be given as a variable character. Let's just give like maybe not more than 100. Then of course I'll also have so I'll also have email. So the email actually will also be given as a variable character, not more than 100. The next thing, sorry about that. Let me say is delete. It's actually deleted. So let me say that this is actually a Boolean. So let me just pass Boolean. Then let me say the default. The default will actually be false in that manner. So let me close that manner. So let me go ahead and run this. So I've created the table. So the next thing, in this table, we have got the ID, we have got the name, we have got the email, we have got the is deleted, which is actually will mark for us if actually that particular is actually deleted. So now let's actually put in some data, or maybe let's do like, let's insert some data. So let's insert some data. So I'll say so to insert data, I'll just say insert into my users table, then of course I'll give name, email, let me just do those two because I have the other one as actually default, name and email. Insert it into users, name, email. Then of course I'll give the values. Then I'll pass in this manner. Let me have the first. I'll just say, like, maybe let's have John. Sorry. John. Let's just say John Mark. John Mark. Then I'll say, let's give the example of the email of John Mark as John Mark at example, let's just say at gmail.com. Yeah, that's actually our first. The next that we'll have is, let's say we have got Jane Rose. And Jane Rose, let's say it's Jane Rose at gmail.com. In that manner. Sorry, I terminated this. Then let's say the third person we are having here is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson. Then, of course, let's say that is his email is Mikeyjack at gmail.com. Let me execute this. So I think that's fine up to there. Okay, that's fine. The next thing that I'll do here is now let's get to understand now soft delete. Soft delete. So in the soft delete, basically, this is what happens. So to perform actually the soft delete, we update, the is deleted column so that we can be able to mark the record as deleted instead of actually physically removing it from the table. So for example, to soft delete, maybe use of ID number 2. What will we do? I'll just say update users and set is underscore deleted, is underscore deleted is equals to true, where ID is equals to number 2 in that one. So let me execute this. Let me execute that. The next thing that happens here, I want to retrieve all the active non-deleted users. So retrieve all the retrieve all the active non-deleted users. Non-deleted users. So to do this, I'll just do select everything from the users. Select everything from users where is deleted is equals to false. Execute this. So you can be able to see how that particular, so you can be able to see that ID number 2 is not actually there. So how can we be able to also retrieve all the users, including those who have been deleted? Yeah. So to retrieve all the users, retrieve all the users, including those who are including even the deleted ones. So you remember that actually we performed a soft delete. So I'll just say select. I'll just say select everything from users. Yeah, from users. So let me execute that. So you can be able to see I can return all the particulars that are there. Even Gendros is actually there. So that's actually how to perform your soft delete. Then let's get to look at hard delete. Yeah. So in terms of performance of the hard delete, this is what happens. So hard delete. So we say that in the hard delete, basically from the hard delete, you actually use the delete. Yeah. So that when you actually perform the hard delete, that particular is actually gone. Yeah. It's gone. So when you actually perform the hard delete, you can just say delete. Yeah. Delete from users where the ID, let's say maybe where the ID is 3. Yeah. So let's execute this. So here actually when you come to now select everything. Yeah. Select everything from users. Yeah. You will see that ID number 3 is not there. Yeah. So that's actually how to perform those two particulars. Update versus case. Yeah. So here we'll just get to look at what basically have the understanding of what actually happens there. So in terms of, so there's a little bit of a small issue on my end, but I'm hoping that it will be sorted. So just a minute. So when you talk of actually update versus case, so these two particulars, they're actually used in a different ways. So in MySQL, both the update statement and the case statement, they are actually the expressions which we use so that we can be able to serve actually different purposes. But they can actually sometimes be used together so that of course we can be able to achieve specific update conditions. So that is actually based on maybe whatever. So let's just get to explore what actually they have. So when you actually want to create a table, you can actually be able to create a table in that manner. And then, of course, you can be able to perform your insertion of the data that, of course, giving the particular output. Then we can actually use the case expression with the update statement at the same time. So the update statement, we actually use it so that we can be able to modify the existing records in a table. So it allows you to be able to change the values of one or maybe more columns. Okay, so I was just talking of the update versus the case. So in the update, basically, you can actually be able to update a particular, you can actually be able to update a particular column that actually, you can actually be able to modify some existing records that you have in your table. So if the update statement will allow you so that you can actually be able to change the values that are actually there. So of course you can give the particular column, set that particular column, then of course change the values that are there. Let's say for example, like you had got a particular table which was actually having maybe the salaries of employees. So that particular table, you can actually be able to change and set maybe the salaries and give an increment of 10% in the salaries of all the employees. Yeah. So that actually will be like maybe let's say that you had got a table called employees. You'll just say like update, yeah, update the employees table, and then set, yeah, set the salary as maybe the salary times maybe 1.1, yeah, in that manner. So then of course you'll just say like where, yeah, where the department is actually a given department, like maybe say HR, yeah, HR department, yeah, in that manner. So that actually goes ahead and updates. It will go ahead and use the update statement. Then of course the update statement will increase the salaries of the employees in the engineering department by 10%, yeah, in that manner. So that's actually what happens in the updations. Then of course, in the case expression allows you so that of course you can be able to, you can actually be able to, so the case expression, it allows you so that of course you can be able to perform, yeah, conditional or conditional logic within an SQL statement. So it actually evaluates for you a list of conditions and returns a result based on the first column that is actually true. Yeah. So that's actually when the case is actually used. So for example, you can actually be able to say a particular case when condition 1, then result 1. When condition 2, result, then result 2. Yeah. Then of course you'll give else result and then end that particular case. Yeah, so that's actually how the case. Then of course you can actually be able to use them also all together. So where you can actually just be able to say update maybe a particular table and set for me, for example, maybe the salaries where a particular case, when the case is actually like this given department, then return maybe the salaries as maybe increment the salaries by 10%. If actually when actually the department is this particular department, then the salaries would actually be like, let's say, being incremented by 5% and so on and so forth. Then of course, then you end the particular statements that are there. So that's actually what happens in terms of the case and also the update statements that you have. So yeah, this actually gives the particulars. So update students, set maybe the marks, the case when actually the remarks is actually pass, then fail. When remarks is fail, then pass. So what basically this does is it will check for if the remarks is actually pass, that's actually it will then return for you fail. When the remarks is fail, then it will actually return a pass. Then of course you end in this manner. Then return for us everything from the students, it will actually return. So we also looked at the string functions. I think we had looked at the string functions when you're actually looking at the string functions in SQL. But we can actually be able to revisit that and just and say that so when actually we're looking at the string functions, we did mention that functions like maybe the concatenation, getting to look at the length, getting to look at things like what are the others? Concatenation. Yeah, how we can be able to change a particular string into uppercase, how we can be able to change a particular string into lowercase. Yeah, those I think we had looked at. We are how to be able to do a substring. Yeah, where actually you are just getting a particular string within a or you are extracting a string within a particular string where you are getting a substring basically, yeah. And then of course give the particular conditions, the string, where to start and where to, the length actually to use. We had also looked at the strings functions for replacing, to be able to trim, to be able to repeat, yeah, and so on and so forth. So of course we had looked at the different string functions. There are additional string functions like maybe the CII. That is actually the standards, the numerics, the leftmost characters, and so on. We have got the bin, which will actually just represent for you an argument. Then we have got the bin length, which will actually give you the arguments in bits. Then we have got the character length that will actually return for you the characters in a particular argument. We have got the character, we talked about the character length, concatenation. This particular one actually returns for you the separator. Concatenation to the separator. Concat, we had looked at the concat. Conv, which actually converts for you the numbers between different number bases. Yeah, you can have number bases like maybe the decimal, the hex, the bits, yeah, and so on. Then of course we have got the ETL, which will actually return the index number. The ELT, the index number. Then we have got the export set. Basically, it will return for you a string, yeah, that for every bit that is actually set in the value bit, you'll actually get a string, and for actually every unset bit, you'll actually get the off string. Then we have got the field as well. We have got find insert, we have got the format, the hex, which will actually get you the hexadecimal values. We have got the insert, yeah, I think we've met the insert functions. So those are actually just the overviews of the particular functions that are there. So there are also other functions like maybe the locate function, yeah, and so on. Right function, which will actually return for you the rightmost, the left function, the in string, yeah, the repeat, I think we've mentioned the repeat, yeah, and so on and so forth. So of course, as you advance your journey in the SQL, you'll still get to look at some of these other functions that are there, or string functions that are there. So the hex function here, it will actually return for you the hexadecimal. So they are actually the particular so hexadecimal is actually like, you see the same manner in which you actually give the bit, giving the numberings in bit, yeah. So the numbering bases, we have got the bit, which is actually the base of 2, not 2, but yeah, just 2 zeros and ones, yeah. So we have got the hex. The X actually is, I think it's 8, yeah, it's 8. We have got the deci, deci is actually to the base of 10, yeah. So hexadecimal actually gives you that. So of course, let's just see that. So of course I can show you. Just a minute. Hexadecimal, just a minute. Let me show you that. Hexadecimals. Yeah, so this is actually the particular hexadecimals. So it's actually, yeah, it's actually the representation to 8. Just keep that. Yeah, this particular. To the base of 16, not 8. Yeah, it's actually to the base of 16. Then you see the decimals are actually to the base of 10. So when you have got 10, it actually be that manner. 11, it actually be that manner. Yeah. 17 in that manner, and so on. So hex, actually, hexadecimal will actually be to the base of 16 in that manner. So that's actually what the hexadecimal numbers represent. So that's actually what the hex here also represent for us. Okay. So then, of course, we had also looked at the joins, where we had looked at the right join, inner join, left join, full join. Yeah. So we had looked at all those particulars. So those ones had actually, we have already studied them in the SQL joins. So I think the last thing that we're having is the schema. So any particular S that we have in this manner, this is actually what we call a schema. So in the schemas here, the schema, you can be able to see the particular schemas that I have. Just a minute. So these are the particular schemas that I have: bank, car price, example, and system, like that. So the particular schema that you're using at that moment will actually be bolded for you. Yeah. So the schemas are just the databases that you're having. So yeah, so those are the particulars that we have. So I think just before we complete on this, there are a few things that we'll get to just look at in the schema, and then of course that will actually mark for us the end of our SQL. So just before we get into the schema, before we get to look at the schema bit of it, then of course we'll wind up on the SQL. Because I can share that after the completion. I'm not sure, but I think we'll be able to sort you in the course of the week. So it'll actually give you the correct timings when we'll start. Okay. So in MySQL, schemas, a schema is just a collection of database objects like the tables, the views, the stored procedures, or maybe the indices that, or the indexes that are actually organized under a specific name. So think of schemas like a logical container that holds the related database objects. So it actually helps in organizing and also in managing the database objects efficiently. So that's actually what a schema is. So let's get to know or how to understand how we can actually work with schemas in MySQL. So the first thing is, how can you be able to create a schema? So in terms of creating a schema, what happens is this. Let's just check on these schemas. So let's first of all say how to be able to create schemas. Creating a schema. So to create a schema or to create a new schema, you actually use the create schema keyword so that you can actually be able to create a schema. So the create schema statement would actually go ahead and create for you a schema. So let's create a schema and call it like maybe my schema. So I'll just say create schema, and I'll just call it my schema in that manner. So let me go ahead and execute this. So this actually creates for me a schema, which I'm just calling my schema. Let me refresh this. So you can be able to see my schema has been created for me in this manner. So my schema has been created for me. So after creating my schema, you can actually go ahead and now use that particular schema. So how do I use the schema? So use. So you can know if you're actually using that particular schema when it's actually bolded for you. So use my schema. Let me execute that. So you can be able to see that it goes now to my particular schema. It bolds for me my particular schema. So I'll actually be using my schema. So that's actually how you can be able to change so that you can be able to use another schema. Then after that, let's get to understand now. Let's get to now understand how can you be able to create a table in a schema. So you can actually be able to create a table in a schema in this manner. You can actually so I can say create a table my schema dot my table. Yeah, so I'm actually creating a table named my table in my schema. So I'll go ahead and give it in this manner. Let me say that my table should have ID, which should actually just be an integer. The auto increment, auto underscore increment, and it's actually B2B, my primary key in that manner. Then I'll also have name, which will actually be a variable character, varchar. Then of course it should have for me like 100 data points in that manner. Then let's just close at that in that manner. So let me go ahead and run this or execute this. So what that does is, let me just refresh this. So it creates for me a table in my schema, and my table is just called my table. So my table has got ID and name as the columns, yeah, in this manner. So that's actually what my table has. It has got ID and name, the ones that I've just created. Then the next thing that I can go ahead and also do is how can I be able to view my schemas? Yeah. So in terms of viewing my schemas, view my schemas. So to view the schemas, basically you can be able to say that show the schemas, show schemas, in that manner. Let me go ahead and execute this. So you can be able to see all the particular schemas that I have, bank, car prices, and so on and so forth, my schema, databases, and all those. So that's actually how you can be able to view the schemas. So how can you be able to view also the tables which are actually there in your schemas? Yeah, to view the tables, view tables in your schema, in the schema. So in the schema. So this actually you can be able to give it in this manner. Basically, you'll just say show tables from the particular schema that you're having, my underscore schema. Yeah, let me execute that. Let me go ahead and execute that. So you can be able to see I only have got one table, which is my table in the schema. How can you go ahead and drop a particular schema? So to drop a schema, basically you'll say drop a schema, So to drop a schema, I'll just go ahead and say drop for me the particular schema, drop schema. Then of course I'll give the particular schema that I need to drop, which is called my underscore schema. Yeah, drop my schema in that manner. So when I execute this, it will go ahead and drop for me my schema. So of course you can be able to see I don't have my schema now in the database or maybe the schemas that I'm having. So it is no longer there because I've dropped it. Then I'd also talked about setting the default, where you just say that use the particular schema that you are having. So I talked about that. The next thing that, so I think that should actually mark basically what we have. We talked about create a new schema, create a schema, create schema, that particular. Look at that. Yeah, so I think that is all of it. Yeah, so I think that's actually basically all of it in terms of MySQL. So MySQL also, you can use it to store data. So of course, when you're working with when you're actually working with Python as well, you can actually load data from different places and store them in MySQL. So that, of course, that now comes now to the bit of data engineering mostly. So you can actually load data from different sources, from websites, from APIs, from CSV files, from different kinds of files. Yeah. Then, of course, you now store all this particular data into, let's say, maybe into your SQL database. So, of course, these particulars, they're quite important so that you can be able to understand how to be able to work with different SQL that are actually there. So, this actually would mark for us the end of SQL.